All right, so in this video, in the previous video, what I did was I showed you how to calculate a confidence interval in a proportion for one proportion. And I also explained the reasoning behind all four of these functions that we're learning. So in this video, what I'm doing is I'm showing you how to calculate a confidence interval for a mean. If you were just given one mean, one standard deviation, one sample size, okay? So the function on your calculator, in order to get to it, you go stat, tests, and then option 8, which is t interval. And then you use this for if you were given one list of data or if you were just given one mean, standard deviation, and sample size. And so the input right here is different depending on which one you have. And I'll show you all that here in a little bit. I'll go over each one. But let's look at our example. So this is from our notes on block day, so Wednesday, Thursday. It's about Walter Payton. So it says in 1985-86 season, running back Walter Payton led the Chicago Bears to a 15-1 regular season record and to Super Bowl 20, where they defeated the Patriots 46-10. How good was he at that year? We can use a 95% confidence interval to estimate his ability as a running back measured in rushing yards per game. Here's his rushing totals in yards for each game of the 85-86 regular season, along with a graph. And so they give us the amount of yards that he had each of the games during the regular season. So there's 16 of them, 16 games in a regular season. And it tells us to calculate the 95% confidence interval for Payton's rushing ability in the 85-86 regular season. So there are two ways that you can use this function. One way is if you are given a list of data, like we've been given, or sometimes they might not give you a list of data. They might just give you the mean, the standard deviation, and the sample size, and you have to do it based off that. So the first one I'm going to look at is if I'm just given a list of data, okay? Just like we've had here. So the first thing you want to do over on your calculator, you want to put this data in a list. So I've already gone ahead and I've put this data in my list 1, okay? So I've got each of the games rushing yard totals in my list 1. And now what you want to do is we're actually going to use this function now. We're going to go stat tests option 8. Okay. So I'm going to go stat, go over to tests, go down to option 8 right here. And whenever you open up the function on your calculator, the first thing it's going to ask is input, data or stats. So I'm going to go back to that first page, that first slide. And it said if you were given one list of data, you're going to use data as your input. And if you were given one mean, standard deviation, and sample size, you're going to be using stats. So we have a list of data, so I'm going to use data. So make sure data is highlighted and you hit enter. So it's selected. And now it's asking, where is your data? Okay, well, our data is in list 1. So it's already selected as list 1, so we're going to leave that. Frequency is 1. Just always leave it as 1 for the frequency. And then again, confidence level, we're just doing 95%, so just leave it as that. And then we're just going to hit calculate. And it might take a second. Oh, that went pretty quick there. So this is our confidence interval, 73.193 to 120.68. So 73.193 to 120.68. And so basically all we're saying is that we are 95% confident, because remember this is a 95% confidence interval. We are 95% confident that Payton's ability to rush is somewhere between 73.193 yards and 120.68 yards. So basically, we're 95% sure that he'll get somewhere between these two values every single game. Okay. And if you were given just the mean, standard deviation, and sample size, so first, what we want to do, I'm going to calculate those. So I've got my data in a list, okay? And I'm just going to calculate the mean, standard deviation, and sample size. So let's say, for example, they just give us these. They say the mean is 96.9375. Standard deviation is 44.56. I'm rounding here a little bit, so it might be slightly different. I'll do 4 decimals, 5 decimals. And then sample size, well, he played 16 games, so n will be 16. So let's say, for example, instead of giving us this list of data, it just gives us this. Okay? Well, we can do the same exact function. So I'm going to go stat, go over to tests, go down to option 8. And then instead of data this time, we're going to choose stats. And it changes the input. Okay? First thing it asks for is the mean. Okay? Well, I put that in. Standard deviation, I put that in. Sample size, I put that in. And then confidence level is 0.95 still. So if I hit calculate, right there, you'll see that the the confidence interval is still the exact same because it's the same information. It's just presented a different way. So either way you are given this, just make sure you know how to operate the calculator. Just identify, the first thing I would do is identify what information it gives me, and then ask yourself, okay, which function should I use based on that information it gave? And that's about it.